It's me again. Did you ever happen to hear some science fiction idea about stimulation of your brain? For example, implanting experience in your brain that you never actually had. Have you heard about it? This is what I'm going to talk today. I have to disappoint you. The idea is not novel at all. Since I'm engineer of biomedical electronics turned neuroscientist, I actually spent a major part of my career learning about electromagnetic stimulation of brain. I had an idea about how people are intrigued with what's going on in their brain and how their minds are made up and how you get certain ideas and perceptions and things like that. So it seems that that idea sparked really long time ago. So basically the idea of any kind of stimulation of brain stems from the fantasy that you can manufacture something close to experience. Something that never happened, and you still have it in your head, like you really have that in the moment. Sometimes you don't know when. I was digging in history of electrophysiology to find out who actually started with that, and the trace led me to Padua, University of Padua in Italy. Padua is, by the way, the first European university, and many famous researchers and scientists are coming from there. But the guy who actually started it all was named Giovanni Aldini. He was playing with the idea that you can use voltaspile, which is predecessor of the battery. By the way, you can see the whole thing in Leiden's museum. And the basic idea of that time was that there is something like vitalism, like energy in your body, which is making you alive, because you can see that in any other animal, not only in humans. Of course, make more popular the discoveries of his late uncle, who is actually the first scientist to show in experiment that real current has its role in how we move our limbs, how we signal in our body on the body of a frog. So Giovanni Aldini made experiments which are spooky even today when you look in the text what he did. He actually used the current, electrical current and voltage, to move the parts of the body of someone who is deceased. And for the matter of fact, he used the bodies of executed criminals. Spooky idea. Not any ethical committee would approve that today, but thanks to that we have electromagnetic stimulation of brain today. So what Giovanni Aldini did is that he actually demonstrated that how our bodies are signaling, moving, thinking, whatever, are involving some kind of electrical signal proposing through our tissues, which are conductive tissues. And there is one, should I say, funny or even dark episode. He was, among other performances, he held one in London Physiological Society, where he actually turned back to life the body of executed criminal. I will put the details below. And it was so shocking because that deceased guy, he was a criminal who killed his wife, and he was executed in London that same day. And actually he put the electrodes on his body. So because the current activated certain mechanisms, his limbs started to move, even one eye opened, and his chin was moving, and the jaw, and that actually exerted horror in the audience. And there is one single note in the end of the document that I found in library, that the president of society actually died out of heart attack the same night. So it was too shocking. But this is actually the time when Mary Shelley was only 5. She couldn't witness that. But actually what she wrote and what she devised as her fantasy about the monster that we all know, Frankenstein, was actually initiated by the stories which are coming from demonstrations of Giovanni Aldini. Even today, when you think about Frankenstein, there is something which is supernatural, but it is a good illustration about aspirations of human. For example, one of the earlier readers, I was talking about how there is everyone is talking about the fallacy that we are using only 10% of brain when we are actually using the whole brain. The thing is that for some reason, humans were always asking for more, for some extension of what they already have. And my suggestion would be use what you already have. Why the extension? So after Giovanni Aldini was demonstrating that electrical current and voltage have really important role in how our physiology is functioning, what follows were that some other researchers got to the idea that we can record electrical signals produced in our body. So today you have electroencephalogram, which is electrical signal which your brain is producing, and it is first recorded in 1924 by Bergman in Germany, and then other electrical signals which are produced in our body by our muscles can be recorded, like electromyogram or electrocardiogram. It is an electrical signal produced by your heart, which is a big specific muscle, and electroneurogram, electrical signal from your nerves, etc., etc. But what that has to do with electromagnetic stimulation of the brain? First, as I said in the beginning, that idea that you can produce artificially something which reminds of the real experience that you have every day was always the idea which seems so fantastic that nobody believed it is possible. But as in many other things that we have today, someone first started with idea too fantastic to be taken seriously. And then today I will just tell you what already exists, and in the series of videos I'm going to tackle every single one of them. Notoriously despised electroconvulsive therapy was one of the first demonstrations how the whole human brain can be stimulated artificially by electrical current. And I found even in scientific reports, especially from psychiatry, that even today people are afraid of it because they saw a single scene in Over the Cuckoo's Nest film when Jack Nicholson, who is acting the main character, is being punished by very painful and excruciatingly painful stimulation of his brain. But still, that technique is 80% successful in treating treatment-resistant depression. So today we have anesthesia, and the main obstacle in using electroconvulsive therapy is that since the current has to go through all the tissues which are in your skull and the skin and nociceptors in the skin, on its way to the cortex, neural tissues, which is on the surface of our brain, there are some receptors which are coding a stimulus which in the end we feel as a pain. So electroconvulsive therapy was the first one. Then electroconvulsive therapy is actually generating the strong electrical field which is inducing much smaller currents in your brain, because our brain consists of the tissue which has electrical properties, and this is one of the main signals in our body. So every single action or every single sensation is a combination of electrical and chemical messages going on in our body, but more about that later in another video. So after the first presentations of Giovanni Aldini, electroconvulsive therapy started in 1930s in Italy, devised by psychiatrists in psychiatric asylums. Today, if someone is applying a form of electroconvulsive therapy, this is of course together with anesthesia. Then there was an idea how we can develop electromagnetic stimulation of brain, but painless one. So then it came transcranial magnetic stimulation. Transcrania means through the skull, and why it has magnetic in its name. There is a well-known physical phenomenon of induction, because every magnetic field can induce electrical field. Magnetic force is actually forcing electrons in the matter to move. Then when you force them to move, there is already electrical current. So by imposing a strong magnetic field, which is inducing electrical current in the surface of your brain, certain particles in that tissue start to move, and the stimulation of neurons on that surface can happen. So transcranial magnetic stimulation is the first example of painless stimulation of the brain. It started first in neurology because it can be used in really non-invasive manner to make diagnosis about functionality of certain parts of the brain and of our motor system. But then it turned out to be very efficient in stimulating the brains of people with psychiatric diagnosis. Then beside that is transcranial direct current stimulation, which is much weaker form of electrical stimulation. It doesn't hurt. You can only can feel the tingles in your skin, but this is very similar to majority of devices used in cosmetology, and I will make another video about that because they are neglecting the long history of electromagnetic stimulation of human tissue. I just wanted to tell you that whenever somebody is telling you that something is completely new breakthrough in psychiatry or electrophysiology, it is probably possible to find somebody who did that 150 years ago or even before that, because we humans like to brag about things we think are new. So thank you for listening, and I will keep you posted about details of electromagnetic stimulation of brain in a series of videos. Thank you.